There's a voice inside you that was never yours. It tells you that you are too much or not enough. It shows up when you succeed and whispers that you don't deserve it. It surfaces when someone gets close and says, "Be careful, this won't last." It criticizes the way you look, the choices you make, the space you take up in a room. You have spent years trying to quiet it, argue with it, outrun it. But here's what nobody told you. That voice has a name, and understanding where it came from, really understanding it, is the beginning of the most important healing work you will ever do. In psychology, the mother wound refers to the emotional and psychological pain that develops when the relationship between a child and their mother, or primary caregiver, is marked by inconsistency, emotional unavailability, criticism, enmeshment, or abandonment. It is not reserved for dramatic cases of abuse or neglect. The mother wound can form in homes that looked fine from the outside. It can develop with a mother who tried her best, who loved genuinely, but who was herself carrying wounds she had never addressed. Because wounds are transmitted not through intention but through pattern. What a mother cannot heal in herself, she passes on, not because she wants to, but because we can only give what we have received. This is not an invitation to blame your mother. That is one of the most common misunderstandings when people first encounter this concept, that naming the wound is an accusation. It is not. It is a diagnosis. You cannot treat a wound you refuse to name, and the mother wound, left unexamined, does not stay contained to your relationship with your mother. It radiates outward into every significant area of your adult life. It shapes how you relate to authority figures, whether you collapse in their presence or reflexively push against them. It shapes your relationship with your own needs, whether you feel entitled to have them, guilty for having them, or simply unaware that they exist. It shapes how you respond to love, whether you can receive it, whether you trust it, whether you find ways to sabotage it when it gets too close. It shapes your inner dialogue, the quality of your self-talk, the standard to which you hold yourself, the ease or difficulty with which you forgive your own mistakes. And for many people, it shapes their relationship with God, because the first experience of unconditional love, the absence of it, comes through the mother. And that template gets projected, consciously or not, onto every relationship that follows, including the divine one. Ezekiel 18 records God addressing a proverb the Israelites kept repeating. The fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. God pushes back against this proverb, not because generational patterns do not exist, but because he does not want his people to accept them as destiny. The generational wound is real. The generational wound is also not the final word. This is the intersection where psychology and faith become not competitors, but collaborators. Because what neuroscience now confirms, that early relational patterns wire the nervous system and shape the brain's architecture, Scripture already understood in principle. We are formed by what we receive in our earliest years, and we are also capable of being reformed. So what does the mother wound actually look like? It looks like being an adult who still, instinctively, edits themselves before speaking. Because as a child, what you said was either ignored, corrected, or met with disappointment. It looks like an inability to celebrate your own achievements without immediately minimizing them. Because growing up, pride was either not modeled or was actively discouraged. It looks like chronic people-pleasing, because the love you received as a child felt conditional on your behavior. and some part of you is still performing for an approval that never quite came. It looks like difficulty with boundaries, because the concept of where you ended and your mother began was never clearly established. And it looks like a pervasive sense that something is fundamentally wrong with you, when in reality, something was wrong in the environment that formed you. Here's what makes the mother wound particularly difficult to see and to heal. Unlike a single traumatic event that has a clear before and after, the mother wound forms through repetition, through thousands of small moments across years of childhood. The look that communicated disappointment, the silence that followed an emotional expression, the praise that was always conditional, the comfort that never quite came. Because it develops so gradually, it does not feel like a wound at all. It feels like reality. It feels like personality. It feels like this is just who I am. The critical inner voice does not announce itself as an internalized maternal message. It simply sounds like the truth. This is why healing the mother wound requires something more than positive thinking or behavior modification. It requires going back, not to relive the pain, but to understand it. To see, with the eyes of an adult, what the child in you experienced and what conclusions that child drew about the world and about themselves. Because those conclusions, formed in the mind of a child who had no other framework, are still operating in you today. The child who decided I am too much concluded that as a survival strategy, not as a fact. The child who decided I must earn love concluded that it's the only explanation available to them for why love felt so conditional. Those conclusions made sense then. They no longer serve you now. Healing begins with what therapists call differentiation, the process of separating your own voice from the internalized voices of your caregivers. Learning to hear the inner critic and ask, is this actually true? Or is this a wound speaking? Learning to notice when you are responding to the present moment versus when you are reacting to a pattern laid down in childhood. This is slow, non-linear work. It cannot be rushed, but it is not impossible. And for the person of faith, it carries an added dimension because the God of Scripture describes himself using the very language of the wound. In Isaiah 66, he says, as a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you. He is not unaware of what you missed. He is not indifferent to the void. He positions himself precisely there, in the place where the human comfort fell short. So what does this healing actually look like in practice? It looks like grief, allowing yourself to feel the sadness of what you did not receive without bypassing it with forgiveness before you have actually felt the loss. Genuine forgiveness, the kind that holds, comes after grief, not instead of it. It looks like reparenting, learning to give yourself the things your mother could not. Consistent kindness, permission to have needs, celebration of your own achievements, the patience and warmth you extend to others turned inward. It looks like building relationships where differentness is safe, where you can disagree, disappoint, or take up space without the relationship collapsing. And for many people, it looks like therapy. Real, sustained, safe therapeutic work with someone trained to hold this kind of pain. You are not condemned to repeat what was handed to you. The generational pattern is real, but so is the capacity for repair. Every insight you gain, every wound you name, every old conclusion you revise, that is not just healing for you. It is healing that stops here, that does not get passed forward, that changes what the people who come after you will inherit. If something in this video stirred something in you, I want you to subscribe to this channel. Every week, I create content at the intersection of psychology and Christian faith because your inner life matters and you deserve the language to understand it. You are not alone in this work. I left something in the description. It's a simple 7-day path to help you see this more clearly. Just take a look when you feel ready.